and welcome back to Algebra 1. Our goal for today is to continue working with our factoring polynomial expressions completely when we have to use both our factoring process of GCF and the factoring process of going further to our chart method, because we have a polynomial that is a quadratic or has a degree of 2 or higher. Our starting spot today, again, is going to be with things that have 3 individual terms called trinomials. And how do we get that trinomial to a quadrinomial, something that has 4 terms, so that we can go to our chart and complete that factoring process? Today, we're doing our extra examples in our notebook. So you might want to take your notebook, do a hot dog bun, tall, skinny, fold down the middle, and create 2 halves. One for your steps of work and one side for that guess and check sort of scratch paper work that you're not going to have to show on a test or a quiz. So on number 1, extra problem number 1. We want to factor completely, and we're going to have a degree higher than 2, which means we have to check for GCF, get to 4 terms, and check to see if we can factor further using our box method. So extra example number 1, we want to factor the quadratic trinomial 21m squared plus m minus 2. We want to factor it completely. I gave you space here that says GCF. Again, remember, if you can't see the GCFs in your head, you can do your trees and make a little chart over there that helps you get that greatest common factor. In this case, 21m squared, m to the first, or 1m to the first, and minus 2 or negative 2 don't have a common factor. So there's nothing to pull out for GCF. So we're going to go straight to our guess and check. Our leading coefficient here, 21, times our constant term back here of negative 2. Please remember, if your polynomial is not presented in standard form, or what's called simplified standard form, where it's highest degree down to constant term, you have to rearrange it to that format first before you go leading coefficient times constant term, right? It's front times back, but only when it's in standard form, so be careful. So we'd have a negative 42, and we needed to add up to that middle term of 1. Now, here's my suggestion to you. When you need a sum of 1, that means your digits have to be within 1 of each other, like 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 4 and 5, 5 and 6, and so on. So I'm thinking of the combination that when I multiply gives me 42, but the digits are right next to each other. And in this case, the magic combination would be 6 and 7. Now remember, to get a negative up here, there's 2 different ways to get that. Make the 6 a negative or make the 7 a negative. Right? And so that's going to be our combination that works here. One of those 2 is the one that gives us a positive 1 result. So I'm going to look at these 2 and see which one gives me positive 1, not negative 1. All right, this 6 and negative 7 would give me a negative 1. This negative 6 and 7 would give me a positive 1. I want positive 1, so it's this top one. If the middle term was a negative m, we would have to use this positive 6 with the negative 7, so just be careful. So we're taking this 1m and we're going to break it apart into negative 6m and positive 7m, and the order that we write them doesn't matter. So we have a 21m squared that goes first. And then in between that and our negative 2, we need a negative 6 with an m and a 7 with an m in any order. So minus 6m plus 7m, or I might have plus 7m minus 6m. It's not going to change what I get in the end if I flip the order here. And then we still have the subtract 2. All right, now we're ready for our chart. 21m to the second are squared, minus 6m, 7m, and minus 2. Subtract 2. All right, this star block is negative, so let's go ahead and put that negative sign out there just so we don't forget about it. All right, row by row, column by column, let's get our GCF. So 21m squared and negative 6m both have a 3 and an m. Factor that out. All right, 7m and negative 2, they don't share an m, they don't share a number, so all we can pull out here is a positive 1. So one of our factors is a 3m plus 1. All right, doing the same process with our columns, 21m squared and our 7m both share a 7, and they both share at least 1m. Factor it out. All right, negative 6m and negative 2 both share a negative 2. Right, if that definitely has to be a negative 1. It's part of our GCF, so we would have pulled it out anyways here, but the star block is negative, so make sure you bring it out. All right, 7m minus 2 then would be our other factor. So in this case, we have 2 factors. One is 3m plus 1, and the other factor is a 7m minus 2. I would always suggest multiply, FOIL that out. See if you get 21m squared plus m minus 2. If you don't, you know you made a mistake because you're not changing the problem. You're just writing it in a different format of factored form. All right, number 2, let's try another. We have an x squared plus 8x plus 16, and we want to try to factor it completely. All right, x squared, 8x, and 16 don't have a common factor. So we can go straight over here to our guess and check portion of our work. All right, we want to take that 8x and break it apart, but in a special way. Leading coefficient here is a 1, right? No number there is a 1, so 1 times 16 means we need factors of 16 that add up to a sum of 8. All right, now I can do my guess and check, right? 1 and 16, negative 1 and negative 16, 2 and 8, negative 2 and negative 8, and keep going up 4 and 4, and negative 4 and negative 4. Right? I can go through the list. Or I could say I need 8 here. I know it's this one of 4 and 4. Right? But if you can see that right away, go ahead and do it right away. You don't have to list them all out. That's scratch paper work that's helping you get there. This side over here is the side that you have to show called your steps. So we have x squared. This 8x is going to become a 4x plus another 4x. And then we still have the 16. And now we're ready to go to our chart to help us factor completely. All right, top row, x squared and x both share an x. Factor it out. 4x and 16 both have a common factor of 4. So one of our factors down here is an x plus 4. I did the same thing with your columns. X squared and 4x both share an x. And this 4x and 16 also both share a positive 4. So we have another factor of x plus 4. Since these factors, right, these two factors are identical, we can write it better. Another step of x plus 4 to the second power. Right? And then we'd have an additional step there to write it in its best possible factored version. All right, number 3. We have a 2p squared minus 14p minus 16, and we want to factor it completely. All right, 2, negative 14, and negative 16 all share a common factor of 2. So pull that out. It's a GCF value. P squared, p, no p means they don't all have the variable p in common. So the only thing we're pulling out here is a 2. So 2p squared divided by 2 would give us p squared left over. Negative 14 divided by 2 would give us negative 7, still with a p left over. And this negative 16 divided by 2 would give us a negative 8 left over. All right, now we want to split this apart. This 2 is done. It's a factor. I'm going to bring it down here so I don't forget about it later on. That will be one of the most common mistakes, forgetting our factor that we already know up top there of 2. All right, we have we need factors of negative 8, right? Leading coefficient here is a 1 times negative 8. And we need it to add up to negative 7. All right, so I could start listing. I can start doing my guess and check. So 1 times 8 is a combo. One of the 2 has to be negative, right? Then I can go to my 2 and 4 and so on until I think I find my combination. Since our goal here is a negative 7, this one right here, 1 and negative 8 actually gets us there. So I could stop my guess and check at that point once I land and find that 1 and negative 8 is our magic combo here. So I have a 2 factor out front. This quadratic trinomial will become p squared plus 1p or minus 8p. The order doesn't matter. So plus a p, minus an 8p, and then minus 8. And now we have an equivalent quadratic quadrinomial. All right, let's go to our chart. P squared, p to the first, negative 8 with a p, and negative 8. All right, top row, p squared and p both have at least 1 p. Factor that out. This block's negative. Pull it out automatically. Negative 8p and negative 8 both share negative 8. So down here we have a factor of p minus 8. All right, do the same thing with your columns. P squared and negative 8p going vertically this way both have at least a p. And then this way, 1 and negative 8, the only thing they have in common is a 1, right? 1p and negative 8 is just a 1. So p minus 1. All right, in this case, we have 3 factors. All right, one that is a 2, one that is a p minus 8, and one that is a p minus 1. All right, you need all three factors down there. All right, last one, number 4. And we have a 5x to the second plus a 15x minus 20. We want to factor it completely. All right, got to look for GCF first. 5x squared, 15x, and negative 20, all have a common factor of 5. This has 2 x's, this has 1 x. This one back here doesn't have any x, so we cannot pull out a variable x. They don't all have it in common. All right, so our leftover would be x squared. 15 divided by 5 would give us 3x. And negative 20 divided by 5 would give us a negative 4 leftover. All right, this 5 is a factor that's done. I'm going to bring it down here so I don't forget about that. And I can put it here for my next step. All right, we want to break up this 3x in a special way that gets us to an equivalent problem with 4 terms. We need factors here of negative 4. Right? A positive 1 out here, a negative 4 back here means we have a negative 4 here. And it has to add up to that middle term of positive 3. All right, I'm going to start my guess and check. I need a negative up here. So I'm negative 1 and 4, 1 and negative 4. Let me check those. In this case, the very first one is good, right? That would add up to a positive 3. So instead of 3x, we're going to call it negative 1x or minus x and a plus 4x. And we still have this subtract 4 that's behind it, and we still have the x squared that's in front of it. All right, let's go to our chart. X squared, negative 1x, 4x, and negative 4. All right, this is negative. Pull it out right now so you don't forget about it. All right, top row, x squared and negative x both share a x, or 1x. 4x and negative 4 both share a 4, and it would be positive, not negative, so be careful there. So x plus 4. All right, this first column, x squared and 4x, again, both share an x. And then negative 1x and negative 4 both share negative 1, so x minus 1. In this case, again, we have 3 total factors, a 5, an x plus 4, and an x minus 1. I hope that helps you attack your work for today. See you guys later.